Hello everybody, I'm Dan. Welcome to my Android tutorial series. My Android tutorials are designed to create real-world examples that complement my extensive Java programming tutorial series. Basically, I'm going to teach you how to install the Android Studio, and you might think, oh, well, I could just go Google that and install it and everything like that, but there are a few caveats that you need to be aware of, and it's a lot more complicated than you might think. So, I have Android Studio installed on my desktop machine right here. This is basically Windows 8.1, so I was thinking, I really don't want to uninstall it because I got a few dozen projects on it and it's all configured. It's got some special configurations and everything like that. So what I did is I went over to my Amazon Web Services account and created a new virtual server. I'm a big fan of Amazon Web Services there, so I'm going to go ahead and pop open my new virtual server here into a remote desktop window. I'm already logged in there, and the only thing I've done is installed Chrome on it. Otherwise, this is just essentially a brand new Windows machine, right? Virtual machine, server 2012, with nothing installed on it there. So if we open up Chrome to my website, javac.com, over here in the menu pop-out, I've added Android tutorials. So we'll click on the Install Android Studio. So, now, the very first and most often missed step is to make sure that you've installed and configured the Java Development Kit properly. You will need to open the command prompt in order to do this. So basically the easiest way to open the command prompt is to create a shortcut on your desktop to CMD.exe. That's what command prompt is. Basically simply right click on the empty space of your desktop, select new, then shortcut. Type in CMD, then click finish. We'll just go ahead and do that. New, shortcut, CMD. Next and finish, right? So that's pretty straightforward. So now we're going to open up the command prompt and type in javac minus version. All right. So javac minus version, and what we get is we get an error message. Javac is not recognized as an internal or external command, operable program or batch file. Right. So we'll just go ahead and close out of that. So you should see something that begins with javac followed by a version. Now, if you receive an error message, then you need to stop and follow the instructions in my installing the Java Development Kit tutorial. Then continue once you have it installed and configured properly. All right, just so for the sake of being thorough, I went ahead and didn't do that prior to this. I'm going to go ahead and click on my link here for installing the Java Development Kit, and I'm going to come down here. And I've got some history on it and whatever and so on and so forth there. And you can take some time to read through this if you're doing this for the first time. But I'm just going to kind of blaze right through it to show you how it is. So I'm going to click on my Download Java SE Development Kit link that I have right here. Right, and I'm just going to click on this JDK download link here. And they have a couple different versions here. They have, of course, this is Java 8, but this is Update 65 and Update 66. We'll just always go with the, sometimes the latest update, like 66. The reason why they put those out there is because this is kind of like their beta, right? So we'll just go with the Java 8, right? And I'm running Windows 64-bit here, so I'm going to click on Accept License Agreement, right? And now I can click on this to download it there, okay? So you can see down here it's downloading this, and because this is an Amazon Web Services virtual machine, they got a huge pipe and it downloads really fast. It's about 180 megabytes here, but this will only take just a little while there, okay? All right, now we'll go ahead and install this here. Let's go ahead and run it. And it gives you a little bit of information, but it says please wait right here. It's doing just a few things here before it allows us to select that next button there. Okay, so let's just follow all the default stuff here, right? And it'll go through, and the installation for the Java Development Kit is really fast here, so that's why I decided to integrate it into this particular tutorial rather than say, hey, just do it and then come back to it there, right? Show you how it is on a brand new, basically untouched, nothing installed on it but Chrome machine here. All right. So once this is done, I'm going to go through some of the other stuff there as well. I'm not going to go back to my page necessarily there, but basically we'll just destination folder and then it'll run through this. I'm going to show you how to do just a couple other things there once this finishes there, especially like setting your environment variables, specifically path variables, to point to where the Java Development Kit is actually located there. So almost done. Okay, we are done. All right, let's go ahead and just close out of that, and we're going to go back on this. The Java Development Kit thing, I'm going to minimize this. So basically, when we open up the command prompt now, we type in javac minus version, right? We are still going to get that error message there, right? And we need to configure our environmental variables. So what we want to do is right-click on the My Computer, this PC, or whatever they're calling it from now on, from whatever version of Windows you're running there. But what you're going to see is this properties link right here. So select properties, and you'll see advanced system properties. And we want to go down to this environmental variables right here. Okay? Now we're going to scroll down in this thing here until we see path, right? And then we're going to select edit. And we're going to hit end on our keyboard, basically, right? And what we want to do in here is put a semicolon in. And we're going to pop back to our DOS prompt here. We'll type in cd space backslash. CD is short for change directory backslash. We'll go to the root. Tell it to go to the root. Let's type in dir javac.exe space /s, which tells it to look in all subdirectories for the javac.exe. And we found it. Okay. So it's located in the program files subfolder Java folder, subfolder JDK 1.8065 /bin. So that's exactly what we want to type this in. And we want to make sure that we type it in exactly how it is up there. So we'll just take our time typing this in, making sure that we do it exactly like that. If you do mistype something, then the next thing that we do when we close out of the DOS prompt and reopen it back up again won't actually work right there, and then you'll know you had a typo here. So we already put in this semicolon at the very end there, and then we see program files, JDK. That looks good to me, right? Of course, your path will be different based on future versions of Java being released. You might not have build 65 on Java 8. You might have Java 9, or who knows, whatever. Okay, so now we've set our environmental variable to include that path for javac there. Okay, if we type in javac minus version, we still get that error message, and that's because we need to close out of this command prompt and just simply reopen it. Now we can type in javac minus version, and we get javac space 1.8.065. All right, let's go ahead and close out of the system properties and pull back up my website here for installing Android Studio. So we have it configured properly. So the second digit of the version number must be 7 or greater, okay? So you can see my current version is 1.8.0_65. And that means that I'm running version 8 of Java, right? You just have to be 7 or greater, trust me, otherwise you're gonna run into all kinds of issues, especially if you try to develop for anything that's Android 5 or greater. So Android version 5 requires Java version 7, if that makes sense. Okay, so now at this point, this is typically the misstep that nobody understands, and they'll go ahead and then they'll hop right into the Android Studio downloads, click the link, and not install the Java or even understanding anything about that Java is the core language for Android, and without it you aren't going to be able to do a damn thing. So this step is most often missed, which causes a lot of frustration in people who are learning to program Android because they can't even get the Android Studio working. So, but now we're ready to go to the Android Studio download page, and I will always have a current link for the download page on this tutorial web page. So let's go ahead and click on that. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to click this button right here, download Android Studio, and in future versions they may change up their websites. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they will, but all in all it'll probably be fairly much the same there. And we just have to read and agree with their terms and conditions. Now we can do that, right? And we'll be in, it won't actually start, down here in the lower left hand corner you can see it's actually downloading the Android Studio, right? Because this is Chrome, but whatever browser you're using, I think Firefox has it up there, Internet Explorer, whatever there, right? So it's cruising along. It's about a 1.1 gigabyte download, okay? And because I'm on Android, because I'm running this virtual machine on Amazon Web Services, they have a huge pipe, so this will only take about another 10-15 seconds tops, and I'll be able to start the install on that, right? And on the installing Android Studio page here, they give you kind of some of the stuff that I talked about here. But you know, a lot of it for most people that are going to be like going, what? That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, you know. When you look at my tutorial page for installing the Java Development Kit, it's much more thorough than just these few lines right here. So, okay, looks like we are good to go here. Let's go ahead and click on this and start our installation. Well, it looks like it might be finalizing up just a few things on that. Oh. Go up to here to downloads. Okay, so I just went and opened up my downloads folder here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the Android Studio, and we're going to run setup. So basically throughout the setup there, because the setup is really slow, it takes a while. Sometimes it does a lot of stuff there. I'll probably be pausing the video off and on, you know, just because the last thing you want to hear is me babbling on about who knows what will come to my mind. So first screen, pretty simple there. Studio setup wizard basically, and we'll just follow the default. Next, we want to install all this stuff here, right? And it requires 4.3 gigabytes of space, and I've got plenty on this new virtual machine there. So next, here's the license agreement that no one ever reads. We just click I agree. And then here's where it's going to install it to. You could change your paths or whatnot there, but I would just go ahead and leave these the way they are right now. Okay. And now we're ready to just go ahead and select install. All right, so this is where it's going to take quite a while there. It'll probably take about a good 5-10 minutes. It'll start off going really fast like it is right now, like it looks like it's going to be done in no time flat, and then the next thing you know, it'll kind of like hang up and do all kinds of other stuff there. So this is just kind of like the first extraction portion of it there, and then basically it's going to go really slow. So I'm going to go ahead and pause, and I'll come back when we get to the next screen there. Okay, a couple more minutes have gone by, so you can see now it kind of went in this thing where it's just extracting it, and this will take a few more minutes before we move on there. So go ahead and pause the video up again here. Okay, so now we've come to the installation complete. Setup was completed successfully. Now don't be fooled that you're gonna just be able to open this up, because when we select next here, it's gonna start Android Studio, but rarely ever does the current installation of the Android Studio actually mesh with their latest version that's out there. So what it'll do is when we click finish here, is it'll go ahead and pull up the little Android Studio thing here. And first thing, complete installation. You can import settings from a custom location if you're upgrading from something like another version of Android Studio. But obviously, since this one is just fresh, we'll just select OK. I don't have a previous version of it there. So their splash screen will come up. And just a little history. Used to do all Android development in Eclipse, and I've been doing that since about 2010 roughly there. And Android Studio has been out for maybe roughly about a little over a year now, and earlier versions were just super buggy, and sometimes this even Android Studio now, whatever they're up to, is a little bit buggy as well. So what it's going to do now, so now it's basically updating Android Studio itself. So I will go ahead and pause it up again there, and once it's done with that, then I'll go ahead and come back to the video. Okay, so now it's all updated to its latest release there, so we'll select finish. And then we get to the welcome to the Android Studio splash screen there. So at this point, it's like, congratulations, you've installed Android Studio successfully. But now what I'd like to do is just kind of give you a quick walkthrough on, basically making sure you got it running, talk about just a little bit about an Android virtual device, and just kind of show you just a really quick down and dirty example of how we can just create a little basic project and run it in an emulator. So pretty much done with the virtual machine here. I'm going to go ahead and swap back to excuse me, So, you know, we could basically select here on the virtual machine, right, start a new Android Studio project. But I'm going to go ahead and do that in on my ordinary desktop here. So the initial screen that comes up for configuring your new project, application name, and this is going to lead into my next thing there. My first Android tutorial is going to be creating a grocery list. And that's going to be using basically every method from the ArrayList class from my Java programming tutorials there. So it's going to show people how to do a real-world example of all those various different methods in the ArrayList class. So we're going to call this grocery list. Now, I'm going to create this in a project location. I'm a big fan, because I'm old school with the clip stuff there, so I always like to put my stuff in an Android folder that's right off the C drive, and then a subfolder called workspace, right? And then this grocery list will be the name of the project. It's asking you for a company domain. Now, if you're kind of confused on what this might be, watch my tutorial on Java and package naming. And basically Java packages have to be unique, right? And so you really want to use your company domain. So I'm just using Acme, you know, good old Roadrunner and stuff like that. So it's going to create a package named com.acme.grocerylist, kind of backwards from acme.com, right? And then tacking on the application name on that. So that's the first screen on that. It's going to name the package that. All right, let's select next. Now, minimum SDK. What this means is, of course, well, Android is a highly fragmented operating system there. Basically, they've got so many different versions out there. The development for it went so fast. Take Windows, for example, Windows 98, right? And then 2 years later, you had Windows 2000, and then, and so forth there. It wasn't that way with Android. Android was going in it seemed like a month or two, they'd be releasing a new version of Android. Oh, okay, and so on and so forth there, right? So you've got all these older devices that are running older versions of Android, and in each new release of the Android operating system, basically they added new features that didn't exist in previous versions. So what this is telling us, by selecting a minimum SDK, that any Android device with Android 4.1, which is Jelly Bean, right, that this particular app will work on those devices and greater, right? And this will tell you API 16 and later runs on approximately 92.8% of the devices that are active on Google Play Store. So we're roughly giving up, 7.2% of the devices that are out there won't be able to install your application or run it without it like crashing or going down in a blaze of glory. Won't even be able to download it from Google Play, but that's a little getting ahead of ourselves there. So we're just going to select next on that. But you can select higher or lower APIs on that, but yeah, 16 is generally a good one there. It's my preference at this point in time too. So let's go ahead and select next. Gives you all these various different templates that you can start off with. We're just going to go with an empty activity. Okay, an activity is basically the equivalent of like a Windows form, right? Is a good way to think of that. It's a little bit different though, but let's go ahead and just select next. And the activity name, main activity, is pretty much the entry point for Android applications. Think of it as like the main method for when you're doing a Java program, right? Well, main activity is very similar. You could rename it, right? It's just going to change the entry point in what's called the manifest, and I'll get into that a little bit more detail in future tutorials. But we'll just leave this the way it is right now. But just think of main activity as the entry point for your Android application, just like main method is the entry point for a Java application. So we'll select finish on that. Oh, and here we go. Always takes just a quick minute to build the Android project there, and then that'll pop up here in a second. I think it's going to pop up in my secondary off-screen window, but no, it did. That's fine. Okay. Now down, it's going to come up with like a tip of the day and whatever on that. We'll just close on that. Down here at the bottom, you'll see this Gradle build running, right? And that comes up, and you'll have this little status bar over here, right? And its progress and everything like that as this is coming up. you'll have all these underlined because it hasn't fully like loaded all the paths to all the classes and stuff like that, but now it has, and we're good to go. So what we are going to do is I don't want this to, geez, Windows, come on, killing me. I don't want this to be up my whole entire screen, so. Over here, and you got your kind of your app hierarchy, and then under Java is where you'll have your com.acme.grocery list, and then the main activity. Of course, this is the class main activity. Don't worry about a lot of this other stuff yet here. It also opens up one other file in the IDE here called activity main, right? .xml, and this is the XML's extensible markup language, and this gives you an idea of what your app is going to look like when we run it on a machine. All right, so let's go ahead and click on this little icon right here. This is the AVD manager, and this will pull up another window here, the Android Virtual Device Manager. And these are where we can basically, like for example, let's go ahead and select this one right here, and then we'll click Run. Okay, so this will start up this Android virtual device, basically as a Google Nexus 5 API 21, right? And it's going to start it up into a little window, and we can drag that over here. So this is, essentially our Android device there that we'll be working with here as far as testing the app. I'm going to scoot this over just a hair, and let's see, I want to go back to my main activity Java file anyway. This takes a little bit to boot up initially whenever you start up one of these AVDs. Now, if you do have an Android device, and I have several of them, you can plug them into your USB port, and you can enable debugging mode under your settings. Debugging mode in a lot of Android devices is hidden, and you'll have to just basically Google your specific device out there to see how you can enable debugging mode. Sometimes it's usually like tapping, the version number like 5 or 6 times. They're just basically stupid little Easter eggs. Why they hide that, I'm not entirely sure. But then once you plug it into your USB port on your computer, you can actually debug and run your apps on the phone itself, which, by the way, is probably 100 times faster than using the emulator here, the on-screen emulator. So it's about ready. Basically creating this new Android device for the first time. Okay, so now we've loaded it up here. And let's go ahead and come over to here. What's this thing doing right at the moment there? Oh, I gotta click on the unlock there and drag it. Okay, so basically, it works just like it basically is an actual device. You've got all your apps and everything like that, your back, your home button, everything like that. So let's go ahead and just click on this green arrow up here, which is Run, right? And what this will do is this will run our particular little grocery list app in the emulator. Oh, okay. So what it did is it says choose a device here. This is my Samsung Galaxy, I think it's my S4, and so I've that plugged into my USB port. But we're going to select the Nexus emulator right here and select OK. And so what that'll do is that'll go ahead and launch this app into the emulator here. Down here you'll see the Gradle build running and a little bit of progress, and so on and so forth. And I'll go over a lot on this IDE in future tutorials to give you guys a little bit better idea, but this just ensures that you've got everything running, and now you've kind of taken that first step to where you can actually basically run an app and see how that all works there. Okay, and it gives you some little message as it goes there. It's about ready to start it up there. Okay, and it starts up there. Grocery list, hello world, so on and so forth there. All right, so basically at this point in time, if you've taken it all the way there, congratulations, you've got the Android Studio installed and configured properly. It'll be updated to all the latest versions and everything like that as well too. So you are good to go as far as developing apps on that. My next tutorial will basically be building this grocery list into a functional app, and especially using all the ArrayList class. Well, using the ArrayList class and demonstrating all of its methods to add stuff to the grocery list, remove it, sort it, you know, do all the various different stuff that the methods do. So demonstrate in a real world type application. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close out of that, close out of this, and that concludes this tutorial. Thanks for watching.